And to all the participants lined up for today's event and the members of the audience, we heartily welcome you to the Inclusive Schools Festival Open Mic by Belongg. And we at Breaking Barriers and LGBTQI plus school campaign are beyond grateful to be partnering with you. So sit back, buckle up your belts, hold tight your seats for a roller coaster through this inclusive and highly entertaining open mic. First up, we have Urvi Umesh, whose preferred pronouns are she, her, and is a 16-year-old poet whose plan is to exhibit the beauty of life through her artistic words. Let's all welcome Urvi. Urvi, are you present in the meeting?
I can't see Urvi's name in the panelists.
Okay, no worries. We'll move on to our second performer. So we have Rabani Dhingra, whose preferred pronouns are she, her. She is a 13-year-old poet expressing her views through her words on the LGBTQI plus community. A huge round of applause for Rabani. Is Rabani there in the meeting as well? And up next, we have our third performer, who is a 15-year-old boy from Delhi, whose preferred pronouns are he, him. And all he needs is a beat to rap and jam. He's inclined towards philosophy and the beauty of the East Coast culture. This young and striving artist has managed to include the both through rap. Give it up for Arush Chakrapani.
Hello everybody, am I visible? Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay, so what my culture is basically I have put poetry to rap, which is not done in many types of rap. Basically, I am following the culture of the Notorious B.I.G. Most of you might not be familiar, but what I am doing is influencing people with poetry and rap. I do write poetry, yes, I do. So I'll just start. This poetry is about including every gender, every caste, every creed into our lives, into our hearts. So let's just start. Okay, one second. I'll take unique. Every gender, every creed, every caste, every religion. Everyone needs to feel human, to feel respected. And that's why I'll take unique. And that's why I'll represent everybody. A mass-produced fervor, product of affection. It's canned and branded, subject to interjection. It's soiled with mockery, foiled with flattery, referred in the third person. Politeness is a diversion from the hate. They meddle with fate, our destiny. Outcast by blue bloods, as society calls black people young thugs. A 4x4 room, disheveled, unkempt, reflected in the room of the poor old lady, father of the poor old baby. His first words are hazy, second word was crazy. It's how the Macy's run the corporate world, parallel to the furled flags of the hostile nation. Chance to succeed are feeble, acceptation is meager. The world raising haystacks, you're finding a needle, finding a place to fit in without being called a misfit in. Swallow the temper, enrage, fight, cry, but don't engage. Inside or fly, but you pry to open the world with the fulcrum and a lever. The world mentally absent with the inhuman accent. They say it's down with the fever for what they put the burden on you. You're different, are you even human? Are you extraterrestrial or your love life's confusing? Revolution is grooming, an honor, dooming, metaphorical corners, namely shyness, your highness, every day, blood brothers, they die first. How is it humanity, cynical insanity? Would you rather guard the country's gates? Protagonists, we have less than character traits. If you have it, courage, thou shalt, but tears glisten off cowardice. Chrome like cobalt, mouth steaming like insults, fresh like peppermint. Rokega kaun, jab big gayi hai government. Look the perspective, principles, directive. Talk through objectives, they are less. They drown in their shallowness. It's called society, Algo Bloom's propriety, achieve sobriety. See the genders that differ, elders, the chauffeurs of stereotypes. Bones quiver by the treatment that shivers, rather rattles how the transgender fought battles. Brilliant warriors dethroned from their efforts, decades, prideful cavalcades. It looks like it's virtual, looks like the tortoise is losing the race. Change is perpetual, change is changing its face. Will it stay like this? Can they still be gay like this? Will it stay humane like this? Questions turn melodramatic, lacking pragmatics, a plea to be free from this cage humanity. So like the flea markets, red dots like on targets, satirical like comedians on satin carpets, included only in jokes, diverse only in their own hopes, own ropes, own necks wrung by the prospects, suspects of brutal treatment. Fair is just skin who commit sins against those unfair. The world is their lair, serving the master their prayer. Bring unholy judgments, jokes are for dummies. You're hurt, chances are you're dirt, sticking down like your untucked shirt. What are you, a girl? You dress like a boy, but talk like a pretty gay toy. You're weird and annoying. You leave the world deploying your message about gender, that it doesn't exist. Don't hear this. Push back, be a defender of your community, of your gender, of your race, of your acid-ridden face. Let the light stay young. Conservatives are high-strung, burning like the devil, talking the infernal tongue. It hurts like burning rubber on an untidy road, like sun rays on a slimy toad. They are mean, harmful, obscene. Look, take a look, a straight guy on the scene. We all support them, conservatives, we report them. This line shall be the end of me. And sympathy, lead with empathy. And sympathy, lead with empathy. Thank you.
Wow, that was really nice. I think all of us can unmute ourselves for a second, give that a huge round of applause. That was really nice, Arush. It was definitely a highly engaging performance, and I think you got all of us wrapped around your fingers. So I would like to ask you something. What was it that made you want to write about the culture of the East Coast, or what inspires you about the East Coast in specific?
What the East Coast is basically not about the beat but sticking to the message. What the West Coast is about sticking to the beat. So that's why I was influenced by the East Coast culture. The icons like the Notorious B.I.G. They have told stories. They have told stories about oppression, and what I've like to bring about is I have a passion for poetry, and I can rap with beat. So what I've bring done is brought the two together to spread a message about everything that's possible. For example, the inclusion about gender and diversity.
That is an amazing outlook to it, and I think all of us can see your passion for poetry through your words. It was really nice. So moving on, we have Jasleen coming in fourth. Jasleen Kaur, whose preferred pronouns are she, her. Jasleen prepared a monologue on diversity and inclusion in schools that I'm sure is definitely a compelling one. So let's all welcome Jasleen.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, I'll be starting. As Truly said, diversity is the mix, but inclusion is making the mix work. I'll explain this with a very simple example. We all have been to a party at least once in our life. So diversity is when you've been invited to the party, whereas inclusion is when you've been asked to dance at the same party. Today, I'll speak about diversity and inclusion in schools. And before we begin, let's know what we mean by these words. Diversity is the sum of the ways that people are both different and similar. Diversity has dimensions that intersect in a wide variety of ways. These dimensions include race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, language, and religion. Inclusion means belonging to a campus environment in which people are welcomed, accepted, and connected to one another. As more and more kids with diverse backgrounds and interests start to populate the 21st century, it is very important that people are emotionally and physically respectable of people around them. Today's classrooms require teachers to create an environment where students, despite their different cultural backgrounds, sexualities, and history, are welcomed and supported and provided with the best opportunity to learn. Now, I'd like to give another example, and I'm sure most of you will relate to this. Some of us here are or were the popular kids in school, whereas some of us are or used to be the shy ones with limited friends who won't speak unless spoken to. And the last type would be the ones who spoke to no one. No one spoke to them because they would be satisfied in their own little happy place. The shy ones and the last type of students either were too introverted or just hated school for XYZ reasons. This is where inclusion comes in. Because if we look at it, the school these group of students go to is a diverse school. But does it have an inclusive environment? I don't really think so. Inclusion is just as important as diversity. Because if you don't feel like you belong somewhere, then what's even the point of going there? I've heard of so many schools and campuses where there is bullying done on the basis of color and sex and religion. People call each other gay as a joke and then don't understand how it might affect the LGBTQ plus community, for example. You never know what a person is going through, and you should not speak because your words might hurt someone and then you won't even know about it. As I end, I'd like to state a few solutions to achieve diversity and inclusion in schools. Starting with, there should be well-aware school counselors who students feel comfortable talking to. These students should be sensitized about certain terms and topics and should be smart enough to report any use of incorrect language or bullying. Educating students about each other's backgrounds and teaching them to be open to others' opinions in schools is very important. And last but not the least, there should be student led campaigns who support minority groups. I myself, being part of one, know that this is very helpful and will help students and will help sensitize students. In my opinion, these changes are a small step towards bringing a change. Because finally, after talking about stuff like this as a taboo, now we speak about it openly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jasleen. I definitely understand where you're coming from and agree with you as well completely. I'd also like to ask you something. So what are some things you've done specifically at an individual level to help out with the inclusions in schools?
Okay, so I have a friend and she was basically closeted and she was struggling as to how to tell people or people who care about her, basically, who actually matter, coming out to them. She was struggling to come out to them, and she did come out to me, and then I knew how to react because I was sensitized. So knowing how to react and knowing what to do when a person is sharing a very sensitive detail about their life is very important, and I'm glad that I knew how to do it. I'm grateful that I knew how to react to when she did share such a sensitive part of herself about herself with me, and I did help her and others, like, be open to the same, and make her feel accepted, basically.
Yes, I think that's amazing that you did that. Would you want to share, if you're comfortable with it, a little on how you were comfortable and respectful of her coming out?
Can you repeat the question? Your voice
Yes.
cracked. Sorry.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Right. So I think I definitely, that's great how you handle the entire situation, and kudos to that. You talked about gender sensitization. Do you want to, maybe, if you're comfortable with it, elaborate on how exactly it is that you handled her coming out to you?
Basically, pronouns are a very important part of when a person tells you about the sexuality they prefer. So even if you don't know what pronouns to use, and for example you do use a wrong one, it's okay to always ask the person and apologize later on. So that is something I did. I asked her what pronoun she's comfortable being referred to as, and then I did tell her that even though she might be attracted to different sexual genders, sexual. Might have a different sexuality. Basically, she's the same person and she's the same friend that I used to have, and that does not change how our friendship is and the bond we share. And we definitely have a more stronger bond than we had before.
Yes, that's great. I agree with you. I mean, that's a great approach, and I'm glad you made her feel comfortable and she's comfortable with her sexuality as of now. We'd like to move further. Let's all welcome Raj Nandini, whose preferred pronouns are she, her, and is a 15-year-old talking about the diversity in schools. Let's all give a huge round of applause for Raj Nandini.
Okay, so thank you so much. So I prepared a poem on my school accept diversity because I've seen my school, how it handles the diversity we have in school, because this is a place where you'll see a lot of people from different backgrounds and different sex gender. So I'm going to start my poem. My school has culture, not one, not two, neither three, but a lot of these. Hindu, Muslim, all are there. My school is extremely fair. Respecting all makes me good. The teacher says don't be rude. My friend, don't worry if you have disability. We won't judge you. This isn't taught to us. We are taught acceptance and humanity. Come along us, join my circle. Excluding you is not our culture. My school accepts diversity. That is why you should not worry. Nobody here is left. We hold each other and move ahead. Caste, religion, everything is fair. We accept each other with lot of care. Right to equality is what we learn. Just remember you are equal in front of everyone. This was a small poem.
That was really beautiful. And I think even if it was small, it was definitely meaningful. And we definitely saw the simplicity and beauty in those words. So, what were your first thoughts when you realized your school has a campaign dedicated to the community?
Yeah, so I was a person that was really concerned about this community, and when I found that my school supports that community, I was very happy. And I thought that usually I don't write, so but when I heard about this, I thought I will write. I'm even a small or long, I have to write, because I inside me there's something that pushes me to help them, help those community. So I've always compassionate about it, and because my school is also helping them, I am really happy, and so that I can also give my part.
That's amazing. And I'm so glad you support it and you have that much compassion for it. Now, let's move on further to Yashika. Yashika is a 16-year-old poet whose preferred pronouns are she, her, and is going to be enlightening us with her words on the importance of acceptance rather than highlighting the difference. So, everyone, let's welcome Yashika.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Yashika Singh. Today, my perspective about the inclusion in school is that acceptance. It was told yesterday in the webinar that disability is a part of diversity, and according to me, differences are a part of the culture of acceptance. So we must remember that it was well said by Winston Churchill that no pair of glasses is rosier tinted than the ones we wear to look in the mirror. My poem, the title of the poem is Wheel. Wheel stands for the cover that hides the beauty of the serene and composure of a child, an innocent child. So the wheel is falling heavy, down to earth and off, to give the will and to lift again. I have misfired, collapsed, bloom and flavor, but the myth of failure is what shines me alive. We all are making bonfires around the stars that descends. We all skim through and through to pull up and drown in vain. Tired of the way out for the wheel that never existed but bloomed, I wish to throw the existence the shadow that controls. Thank you.
Wow, Yashika, I can't help but say I'm blown away with the entire concept of the poem, really. And was there anything in particular that made you think about this philosophy that you'd like to share with us?
Actually, in my school, there was a PPT about the barriers, breaking the barriers. In my school, there is not much inclusion. Like there are people who disrespect the people that belong to LGBT community. It all started when we started into the K-pop fandom. It all came from there. So my main motive is to create awareness about the things. Basically, I'm a poet and a writer, so I thought that I should not miss the opportunity.
That's amazing. And though this small phrase might not be exactly what it means here, but again, pen is mightier than the sword. So your words are definitely really important. Um, Also, is Rabani back, or do we have Rabani with us right now?
I don't think so.
Okay, no worries. And how about Urvi?
Not in the panelists.
Okay, so with that, we come to an end of our participant list, and we are so grateful to everyone that decided to participate and grace us with their presence. Thank you so much. I'm sure everyone here has and had a wonderful time. And I would like to hand over the floor to Saransh to continue.
Thank you so much, Tia. It was a wonderful moderation and was really great to listen to all of you. I can't even express in words how how happy I feel about the issues that you brought up through your artistic mediums. I would like to take this opportunity also to share some entries which we received, after running the Belongg student writing contest. So we received certain poems from students from different schools, and I thought this was a really great opportunity to share those with you as well, and make this a little bit more extended in way. So Pranati, my colleague, will actually read one. I'll be reading another, and then again Pranati will read one. So in total, we are sharing with you three different poems. Pranati, go.
Sure. Thank you, Saransh. A huge thank you to the team as well for putting together something so beautiful. Thank you all. It was lovely listening to you. And I'm going to be sharing Arya Chaudhary's poem, who's from HXLS Gurgaon and is from class 10th. So here it goes in Arya's words. This poem I write is one of woe about a boy who, with talent, was aglow. He could sing very well, you see, but he just could not climb a tree. For he didn't have a tool that was much needed, and he didn't have friends who could have heeded the oncoming demise of a boy from faraway lands. Oh, this was a boy who had no hands. Yes, he had no hands and looked quite different, but nobody thought that he was too magnificent. And magnificent he was, for his singing was stunning, but the people yet continued their shunning. Oh, he begged and pleaded with hideous sorrow and left town on the rise of tomorrow. 2 years later came the news the boy with no hands had become a muse. He had achieved what he had set out to do, and now his dream was finally true. The people in that town remained indifferent and yet shunned the former immigrant. For he was a boy with no hands and he belonged to faraway lands. Nobody could ever accept that the boy they had grounded had just leapt. Reader, I had warned you that this would be a tale of woe, and all the acceptance is but for show. For this world is as cruel as it is old, and for this reason, you will have to mold yourself to be accepting and tolerant. It just doesn't matter if you are dominant. Accepting someone is the greatest service you may render. So if you find the opportunity, try to be tender. Some lovely words from Arya. I'll hand it back over to Saransh to take us through the next poem.
Thank you, Pranati. Okay, so next poem is written by Adya Agarwal, and they write a small introduction before they begin the poem. They write, I had always understood that inclusion was the accommodation of all people and their ideas in our lives. However, the following poem deals with an entirely different interpretation of the word inclusion. It attempts to address the inclusivity in destruction and war, how perhaps there is conflict because certain establishments benefit from human suffering, which they themselves are shielded and excluded from. How developments in science and technology are hindering inclusivity. How we often seem to eliminate governments and decision makers when we ask for equality, how our demands for inclusivity in the decision making process are met by those who pride themselves on their exclusivity and status. Despite very often being chosen by us, representing us, they do not act in our welfare. Inclusivity of the elite seems absurd, doesn't it? So she begins, so they begin their poem uh, titled Logical Fallacy. A Faustian bargain was made. Underneath round tables, a game was played. The king of fools dealt our hands, built this house of cards. Where he sang, he danced. But now the wind's blowing, blowing again. Time was just one of his slaves to kill at councils and at places, palaces, underneath which we all stood silent still, defending him with our defeat. For after all, we were beneath. We live, we relive the ravages, the mistakes, as seconds and minutes dilate. Now clocks struck eternity. We are stuck in a loop of errors. Oh, end of certainty. In inventions and new discoveries, but no rhyme or reason, just illogicality. Science for wars, wars for peace, peace for calamity. Can't believe our reality is this our reality? We hide and he seeks eyes on us, but we can't see. In real politic, who is the real enemy? Now lock me up, set me free. Oh, with missiles you set me free, and changed my name to save the guilty. I'll think I'll be all right, but I wish that my son could see that out here there aren't many any borders. Only the wind blows and whisper to trees. We could fly, fly paper planes, race the moon through the terrains, and dream 100 of dreams. Now that I am up here, the order that seems uncanny. Thus today I conclude, reductio ad absurdum. Your truth is a fallacy, reductio ad absurdum. His truth is a fallacy. The end of the poem.
Um, Thanks, Saransh. That was beautiful. And I'll wrap up our sharing of the poems that we received for the contest through our last poem by Zain Kashyap, uh, which is titled La Extraordinaire. And there's a small note beneath the title of the poem, which means important. La Extraordinaire means the extraordinary in French. I unfortunately do not know French, so if I'm pronouncing it wrong, please do forgive me for that. And here goes the poem. What is disability? What does differentness mean? I looked up the internet for some insights to glean. A societal imposition on those who to normal don't conform, a label, a pronouncement, in my opinion, way too strong. In one swoop, it just calls out how a person doesn't fit, ousting from mainstream and a right at the table to sit. These sweeping generalizations are senseless at best. We should put this labeling once and for all to rest. The greatest minds of yesteryears had disabilities galore. Those fueled their very passions and led them to do more. Helen Keller, Frida Kahlo, Einstein, and Stephen Hawking, too. Bocelli, Beethoven, and Van Gogh, just to name a few. Every one of these geniuses had crippling special needs. Yet their legacies live on through generations for all to see. Sometimes well meaning people don't know how to react. With differently abled people, they're just thrown off track. Sometimes they show pity and sometimes sympathize. They do it out of kindness and don't really realize. No matter how different people may look or seem or sound, inclusion through act and deed are needed on the ground. Rather than do that look and away kind of glance, smile, be your genuine self, make kindness your stance. Empathy is the superpower the world needs most today, for every single person is unique in a very special way. Sometimes disabilities are very visible for all the world to see, but invisible ones are just as terrible. I'm sure you will all agree. Everyone is fighting a battle of which you have no clue, and their mighty problems might be unknown to you. So let us celebrate fellow humans irrespective of their state, appreciate all differences, move from being good to being great. The end of the poem. Thank you. Saransh, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Randy. And we thought that this was a good opportunity to bring these poems to the fore. But I really thank all the students who could make it today. And I know that they want to relax, lazy out, their Saturdays. But thank you for being here. That brings us to the conclusion to the festival. I think these were quite extraordinary days that we spent on the issue of inclusive schools. I hope that all the attendees who have stayed with us are able to take home something extraordinary as well. Yeah, so that's it, and I wish we could stay connected with the students as well as the attendees. Uh, so thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Tia. Thanks a lot, team Breaking Barriers, to have organized this event.
Thank you so much for having us.